All right, today we're going to be talking about how to divide polynomials. So we're going to do two different things here. We're going to divide polynomials using long division. We're going to divide it using synthetic division. Now both are accurate and can go ahead and work. Now we are just going to divide by a binomial. We will do monomials first to start with, and then we will do binomials by one of these two ways. If you have to do trinomials or so, the only option you have is long division, but we will not be doing trinomials. So it's just one of these two. It matters not, both work. Synthetic division tends to be what we use more often in the mathematical world than the long division, but they both do work. All right, so first we're going to talk about a monomial. Monomials are very simple. We just got done dealing with some monomials. And the way that we do this is we take this monomial and divide it into each of the different parts. It is just three different equations here. So it's 5a squared b over 5a, 15 over 5a, and 10 over 5a. So see how we separate each of them. And then each of them is just a little separate problem. So it's like three little monomial problems by themselves. And remember, what we do is we divide the numbers and subtract the exponents. So here 5 and 5, of course, will give us 1. 2 minus 1 for the a is just 1a. 1 minus 1 is no b's. And then we have 15 divided by 5 is 3, a and b squared, 2a squared and b cubed. And that's just our answer. You just do each of them individually and write the answer down. Let's try it one more time. So I'm going to take 3 divided by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then 2 minus 2, or 0, and 1 minus 1, which is 0. So 1x squared y squared, which is just 1. Middle term, 6 divided by 3, which is 2. 5 minus 2 for the x's, and 2 minus 1 for the y's, giving us 2x cubed y to the first. And then 9 divided by 3, or negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. 7 minus 2 is 5, and 3 minus 1 is 2. And that's what our answer is. So each of them is done individually. If you have to write one as a fraction, you have to go ahead and do that. These do not have to be here, but other problems will be. All right, how do we do division of a binomial? See, this is a binomial that's got the two terms. This last one here, this was a monomial down here, so that's how we separated it. Here we have a binomial, so we have to do long division like we did back in like 4th grade. Notice the x minus 5 goes out here on the left. The x squared minus 2x minus 15 goes here in the middle. Now what we want to do is we want to know what we can put up here. We're just looking at the first term. What do we need to multiply x by to make it x squared? And that's just x. So I put an x up here, line it up, and then I take this x and multiply it by these things here, whatever's out in front. So x times x is x squared, and x times negative 5 is negative 5x. Now this is a subtraction, so x squared minus x squared is going to go ahead and give us nothing. And negative 2 minus a negative 5 is going to give me 3x. Bring down the 15. Now I have to ask myself, what do I need to multiply x by to make it 3x? Well, I got to multiply by 3. So 3x minus 15. So 3 times the 5 and the 3 times the x is 3x minus 15. And that will give me a remainder of 0. So my answer is this up here. If I have any kind of remainder, I will have to go ahead and write it up over here, but it is just a remainder of 0, so it's just x plus 3. All right, here's another one. A little different way of writing it. Notice how this first one had a divide sign. We could also have it as a fraction would work, like the first one's up here. This was like a fraction, that's a divide also. So we can write it with a divide here, or we can write it like this with a negative 1 back here. Negative 1, remember, means it goes to the denominator, and so then it's just a fraction. Now this time, to hopefully make it a little bit easier, I did color code it. So the a here is, I multiplied over here. Ooh, this is wrong. Anyways, we'll deal with that. So a times 2 is 2a, and a times a is a squared. Subtract down, negative 5 minus a negative 2 is negative 3a. bring down the 3. And then you multiply by negative 3. This here should have been 6, which would have given us a remainder of 9. And so we had a minus 3 plus, and the way that we do this is we write it plus, and it'll be 9 over a minus 2. 9 over a minus 2. Yeah, that's a mistake there. I'm going to have to go back and correct that. Sorry about that. All right, so here's another one. We can go ahead and do this, and it does end up giving us B as an answer. All right, how do we synthetic divide? So first we're going to write the coefficients of the dividend so that the degrees of the terms are in descending order. So you're going to write the x squared term first, then the x term, the linear term, and then the constant term, just the number. Write the constant r of the divisor, x minus r in the box, bring the first coefficient down. All of this makes no sense to you, I'm sure, right now when I just read that. So let me kind of get into, I'm going to go through these and then I'm going to show you in action. It'll make a lot more sense. It's actually pretty easy once you do that. Multiply the first coefficient by r, and then write the product under the second, add down, and then you repeat 2 and 3 until you are done. All right, so let me go through this. All right, so here's the value. Now they want us to write the coefficients. Remember, the coefficients are the first parts here. So that's step 1. It says, well, let's write all the coefficients. So we have 1, negative 4, 6, and negative 4. And we want to write that in descending order. So we're going to write the x cubed first, then the x squared, then the x, and then the constant. The cubic term, the quadratic term, the linear term, and the constant term. So we're going to write them in descending order. So here's all those values. We're going to just basically get rid of all the x's. But we just have to make sure that it's still in the correct order. If there's something missing, if we're missing an x squared, we have to keep that place with a 0. We can't not have that in there. Okay, so I just write it down. I'm going to get rid of all those x's. It's going to make our life actually easier. All right, next I want to make a little box or a little side thing here. And this side thing gets to be the opposite of what we're dividing by. It's x minus 2, so I'm going to put a positive 2 in here. The reason why it's minus 2 instead of why this is minus 2 and we have a plus 2 here is because we want to add. Remember, with the long division, we subtract everything, and that just makes it more difficult. So to make it an adding, we're going to go ahead and just make it a plus. So we put the 2 here, and then they said the first thing we got to do is drop this 1. We always got to start somehow, and this kind of gets our process going because we have steps that we're going to repeat. So I'm going to drop this 1, and that kind of like primes the pump, gets us going with this problem. So dropping the 1, and then we can start our process. All right, what is the process? The process is to take this number here and multiply it by this number here. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then we're going to write it in the next column. See, we multiply those together and we write it up here, which is 2. And now we add down. We always want to add. That's why, again, we had the opposite there, so we want to add down. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. And we're going to repeat this process now. So the first one, we always just brought the 1 down so that we can multiply by something and put it in the next spot. Now that I have another value here, I'm going to multiply again and put it in the next spot. And I'm going to keep doing that until I'm out of spots to use. So now I'm going to take this 2 with that negative 2, which is negative 4, put it in the next spot, and add down. And then I'm going to repeat it again. 2 with 2 is 4, and add down for 0. Now notice the numbers here, 1, negative 2, 2, and 0. So that's how we're going to go ahead and have to do our answer. This gives us our answer. This is our remainder over here on its side. That's why we have this line here. It's kind of branching off and showing us our remainder. This is our actual answer. Now, if I go all the way back to the original problem here, I start with an x cubed. And if I'm taking an x out of x cubed, I'm going to have x squareds left. I'm going 1 less, right? So when I get my answers here, this is how many x squareds I have. This is my quadratic term. This is now my linear term, and this is my constant. So this is my x squareds, this is my x, and this is my constant. You could work backwards if you want to that way, but it's always going to be one less. So we started with an x cubed, so we had an x as an answer. If I go back to the long division, look at this one. I have an x squared, and I divide by x, and our answers was just 1x, because it's always one less than what we started off with. So let me get back over here. And so let's see how we write it. It's 1x squared, negative 2x, plus 2. And then if we had a remainder, we would have to write that fraction. We'll get one of those in just a minute. So if I have a remainder of 0, this remainder of 0 means I don't have to write it at all. All right. So if we're going to go ahead and do this one, and you synthetic divide it, you will get x plus 7. All right, let's look at this one. So here are our numbers 4, 12, 4, and 10. So 4, 12, 4, and 10. And again, I take this plus 1 and make a negative 1 here. So prime the pump by dropping the 4. And now we multiply. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Add down, which is 8. Multiply is negative 8. Add down is negative 4. Multiply is 4. Add down is 14. So we have a remainder on this one. So our answer, again, one less than what we started with. We started with y cubed, so we have y squared, 4y squared, plus 8y minus 4, plus 14 over what we're dividing by at the beginning, y plus 1. Let's try another one. 2y cubed plus 3y minus 5 divided by y minus 5. So in here goes a positive 5 because it's a minus 5. 2y squared, and notice I have a 0 here. 2y cubed. I have no y squareds. Then 3, then negative 5. I do have to have that 0 in there to keep its place. All right, so bring down the 2, multiply, 10, add, multiply, add, multiply. And you can see how some of these numbers are going to jump up quite a bit. And that's okay. That's sometimes what happens here. All right, so what's my answer? 2y squared plus 10y plus 53 plus 260 over, not y plus 5, 1. Bleh. Not y plus 1. It should be y minus 5. Should be the answer there. Couple mistakes in this one. All right, notice the problem here. We have 2y minus 1. Our form had to be y minus or y plus. That 2 there does not help us out any. So we're going to have to take an additional step before we start this type of problem. So I'm going to have to go ahead and divide everything by 2. But if I divide the bottom by 2, I have to divide the top by 2. So unfortunately, I'm going to get some fractions. So 2, negative 3, 2, and 1 half, and then 1 half on the bottom. Now we can go ahead and write our problem here. So I can put the 1 half in here, and then again, 2, negative 3, 2, and negative a half. So 2, negative 3, 2, and a half. So bring down the 2. 2 times a half is 1. Add down is negative 2. Multiply again is negative 1. Add down is 1. Again, and we got 0. So even though we had the fractions, it did end up being no remainder. So 2y squared minus 2y plus 1. Just to show you, because I know many of you want to, you can do the long division also. The nice thing about the long division is you don't have to divide that out. So we're just looking at 2y. What do we need to multiply 2y by to make 4y cubed? Well, that's 2y squared. 2y squared times 2y is 4y cubed. And 2y squared times negative 1 is negative 2y squared. Subtract them, and we get 4y. Bring down the other 4y. So what do we have to multiply to get negative 4y squared? We're going to have to multiply by negative 2y. So we have a negative 2y there. Multiply it. Subtract, and we get 2y minus 1. And what do I have to multiply by 2y to get 2y? Well, I just have to multiply by 1. So that's what I do, and we get a 0 remainder. So it works out both ways. Both are acceptable in terms of how to do it. Obviously, synthetic division helps in terms of getting rid of all these x's and y's and it's a pretty straightforward path. So that's why we use that a lot. And that's what I have for you today.